All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, in what is being touted as a massive boost for Asian economies. The world's biggest free trade deal that does not include the United States of America has been signed by 15 Asia-Pacific nations. The China-backed deal has excluded the United States, which had left a rival Asia-Pacific grouping under President Donald Trump. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP as it is known, is the world's largest trade pact in terms of GDP. The bloc includes the 10 Southeast Asian economies along with China, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand and Australia. The world's biggest free trade deal has left out the United States, and this in many ways will point to the manner in which the future trade dynamic will be dictated. The deal will cover the markets with a combined GDP of about $26.2 trillion. That is about 30% of the world GDP. And the signing of this partnership is, of course, a further blow to the group that was proposed and pushed for by the former U.S. President Barack Obama, which his successor Trump had exited in 2017. India, meanwhile, remains as an observer, as the deal does not address the crucial and outstanding issues of concerns that have been raised by India.
Yeah, on RCEP, our position is well known. As far as India is concerned, we did not join RCEP as it does not address the outstanding issues and concerns of India. However, we remain committed to deepening our trade relations with ASEAN.
Now, India, of course, can participate in the group's activities as an observer member, and the participating nations have left a window open for India to join if it wants in a future date. The reason why India did not join and it pulled out of the agreement last year was over concerns of cheap Chinese goods being flooded into the nation. Australia, meanwhile, hopes that the Asia-Pacific trade deal will improve its relationship with China even further.
This is an incredibly important agreement in terms of the timing for when it occurs. Symbolically, we see huge pressures globally on the trading system and, of course, pressures that Australia faces too. This agreement signifies that our region, which has been the most economically dynamic region of the world in recent decades, is still committed to openness and to trade, and that we will use that as a platform and a springboard for recovery in the post-COVID era.
All right, now to give us more perspective into what this actually means for world trade and also for the world balance of power in terms of trade dynamics, we are joined in by WION Siddhant Sibil, who is joining us live. Now, Siddhant, 8 years since it was first mooted way back in the year 2012, the RCEP has now officially been passed. Tell us what it actually means, especially bearing in fact that the United States, the largest economy in the world, does not even figure in the world's largest free trade agreement.
Well, Mohammed, this is a significant development. The fact that 15 countries of the Indo-Pacific have come together to sign this trade agreement, which of course encompasses 30% of the world population and 30% of global GDP. But there is no celebration here in New Delhi. Remember, New Delhi had withdrawn from the RCEP, citing concerns such as flooding of the market by cheap Chinese goods. There were other issues as well, the concerns of the domestic markets here. But interestingly, as the pact has been signed, the joint statement has a special mention of India. There is a joint statement within joint statement specifically for New Delhi for two things. First, inviting New Delhi back for the RCEP, calling it a strategic partner. Secondly, saying that India can be part of the RCEP activities, the economic activities, as an observer member. So far, there is no official reaction to this invitation, which has been given just few hours before when the virtual summit happened and the agreement was signed. But it is highly unlikely that New Delhi will be joining, given the fact that the biggest concern was the Chinese flooding the Indian market. Remember, it is the issue of the cheap Chinese goods which have been the top concern here, and that ballooning trade deficit with Beijing. And after the Galwan incident, it is highly unlikely that India will be taking a softer position when it comes to the trade issue, which was already an issue with Beijing. But by and large, when it comes to the global economics, global trade, this is a significant move, a growing influence of the Chinese in the region, because this trade pact has the rules which, of course, is accepted by the countries, but also written by Beijing. So by and large, it excludes Washington from the region. And of course, Washington had withdrawn under the US President Donald Trump. So it looks like the Chinese dominance increasing in the region. But of course, there is a point which is coming, that the fact that India is not present in the grouping is something that is also a concern for the grouping.
Absolutely, indeed. And many people are saying that this is a grouping that is complementary to the much bigger OBOR, the One Belt and One Road initiative that the Chinese President Xi Jinping has kick-started just a few years back. Siddhant, I want you to weigh in as to what it actually means for the Asia-Pacific region. Does it now look like increasingly, because the United States, of course, has been pulling out of these agreements under Donald Trump, it'll be much harder for his successor, Joe Biden, to make his way back into all of these groupings and dealings?
Well, for the Asia-Pacific region, this is a solidification of the Chinese role in the region, especially when it comes to trade, because this is a thing which the Chinese were very keen on, given the fact that how the global economics is changing very fast. We know that there is a backlash against the Chinese globally when it comes to economics as well. The fight between the Trump administration and, of course, Beijing is something that is well known now. But now it looks like this is a fiefdom of the Chinese, and in this fiefdom, the rules of the Chinese, what is written in the by Beijing, is something that will be followed, and that is the concern for New Delhi. And the fact that India is missing in the trade pact is a kind of a positive news for the global trade, given the fact that India is not conceding to the rules written by the Beijing, and it is highly unlikely that in near future we will see India joining the RCEP, because India's point was clear, and as the Secretary mentioned in her reaction to the questions by the reporters, that India's concerns are regarding certain things that they haven't been solved. And these concerns include the Chinese flooding the Indian market. There were other issues as well. The biggest, of course, the domestic concerns. It looks like that RCEP will continue to woo India for a considerable time, given the fact that the special exemption being given by India in the joint statement, as well as in the agreement, chapter 20 of the agreement specifically mentions, while any other country can join within a certain period, India does not have this issue. India can join at any moment, whenever it wants, given the fact that India was one of the initial countries who participated in the negotiation for this mega trade agreement.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Siddhant Sibal, for joining us and getting us all those insights. So this, of course, is a very, very significant free trade deal that's been signed, which excludes the world's biggest economy, the United States. But this particular deal comprises of 15 nations who together comprise 30% of the world's GDP.